On January 26, 2022, 5 days before I was set to start at Georgetown, Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer announced his retirement, or rather, because his press conference didn't happen until the next day, it was announced for him. Rumor has it that it was White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain who had leaked the news to lock in Breyer's decision and ensure that there would be a vacancy for President Joe Biden to fill while Democrats had control of the Senate, which wasn't assured past the 2022 midterms. Indeed, we haven't had a Supreme Court confirmation process under divided government since 1991, when then Senator Biden presided over an explosive set of hearings for Clarence Thomas. I was on a plane to Austin, Texas when the news broke. Upon landing, my phone blew up, and I spent the rest of the afternoon writing press statements and fielding media queries about Breyer's legacy and the search for his successor. My bottom line was that it was unfortunate and unseemly that Biden was narrowing his candidate pool by race and sex. He had promised during the presidential campaign that he'd pick a black woman, but that whoever he picked would be a reliable vote on the court's left wing. After all, it has long been the case that Democratic-appointed justices vote much more in lockstep than their Republican-appointed counterparts do. At a certain point, the immediate media cycle ended, and I went to a dinner celebrating a friend's new job. Walking back to my hotel from the restaurant, I was feeling festive and feisty. As I doom-scrolled Twitter before going to bed, not recommended, I became increasingly upset about the criteria being applied to the Supreme Court nomination. I asked myself, if I were a Democratic president, whom would I tap? I got it. Sri Srinivasan, the Chief Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, the second most prestigious court in the country, an Obama appointee who had argued 25 cases in the High Court and was universally respected for his intellect and legal acumen. He had been born in India to boot and emigrated to Kansas with his parents, so he combined diversity and the American dream. Judge Srinivasan had the potential to have a huge impact as a justice and had been considered for the 2016 nomination that had ultimately gone to Merrick Garland, but was now preemptively disqualified because of his race and gender. So I fired off a late-night hot take on Twitter. Objectively, best pick for Biden is Sri Srinivasan, who is solid prog and smart. Even has identity politics benefit of being first Asian Indian American, but alas doesn't fit into the latest intersectionality hierarchy, so we'll get lesser black woman. Thank heaven for small favors. Because Biden said he'd only consider black women for SCOTUS, his nominee will always have an asterisk attached. Fitting that the court takes up affirmative action next term. In other words, I argued in stilted Twitter prose that Judge Srinivasan was the best candidate, meaning that everyone else in the entire world was less qualified. So if Biden kept his promise, he would pick a less qualified, or given the platform's character limit, lesser black woman. Then I went to bed. Overnight, a firestorm erupted on social media, particularly over those three words, lesser black woman. I deleted the tweet and apologized for my inartful choice of words, but stood by my view that Biden should have considered all possible nominees, as 76% of Americans agreed in an ABC News poll released a few days later. Many politicians and legal commentators made the same point. But it was too late. My ideological opponents were out for blood, or at least my new job, even before I assumed it. The day after the tweet was the second worst day of my life, after another January day nearly 25 years earlier when my mom died. I thought that I had blown up my life and killed my career. Everything I had worked hard for over decades, the sacrifices my parents had